Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Healthy Lifestyle Program Module 4. Today, we'll be talking about how better sleep can make a better you. Our objectives for this presentation are to learn how sleep benefits our health and wellness, identify our current sleep habits and areas for improvement, and finally, to implement best practices to get the highest quality sleep. So first we'll talk about how sleep works, starting with circadian rhythms. So these circadian rhythms are our physical, mental, and behavioral changes that follow a 24-hour cycle, and they respond primarily to light and dark. For example, you usually feel energized during the day and tired at night. That's not by accident, that's due to our circadian rhythms. And these circadian rhythms are regulated by our biological clock and master clock. Our biological clocks are our natural timing devices that are composed of specific proteins that interact with cells throughout the body. Every tissue and organ in our body contains its own biological clock. Our master clock, on the other hand, resides specifically in our brain and coordinates all the biological clocks throughout the body, maintaining every tissue and organ in sync. It is comprised of about 20,000 neurons in the hypothalamus, which receives direct input from our eyes on the amount of light in the environment. So you can see how the light and dark really interacts with our biological clock and our master clock more specifically. So these circadian rhythms are responsible for influencing our hormone release, eating habits and digestion, and body temperature. But most importantly, circadian rhythms influence when and how much we sleep. As our hypothalamus receives information from our eyes, indicating that it is getting darker, it begins to release a hormone called melatonin, which is responsible for making us drowsy and sleepy. Circadian rhythms can be impacted by travel in the form of jet lag, mutations in certain genes that affect our biological clock, or light from electronic devices at night, which confuses our biological clock into thinking it is still daytime. All right, so now moving on to the sleep cycle, which is also another important aspect of how sleep works. So as we sleep, our brain and body go through several cycles, divided into two main phases, non-REM sleep and REM sleep. These cycles typically last about 80 to 100 minutes, and we go through about 4 to 6 of these cycles each night. So the first phase of the sleep cycle is known as non-rapid eye movement or non-REM sleep. This phase has three stages differentiated by changes in brain activity and brain waves in each stage. Stage 1, also known as N1, is the stage of sleep when you first fall asleep and is very light sleep. In this stage, the body has not yet fully relaxed, but our body and brain functions do begin to slow down significantly with only brief periods of movement or activity. N1 lasts only 1 to 7 minutes. It is very easy to be awakened during this stage, and if you are, you may feel as though you haven't slept at all because you really haven't, and you may remember only pieces of images. Stage 2, also known as N2, is also a period of light sleep, though it is deeper than N1. During this stage, our body relaxes more and our body temperature drops, and our breathing and our heart rate also slow down. Brain activity slows and our brain waves begin to change as all eye movement stops. There may be brief moments of heightened brain activity, which is actually a mechanism our brains use to prevent us from being woken up. So it is harder to wake someone from N2 sleep than an N1 sleep. Initially, N2 sleep lasts between 10 to 25 minutes, but as we continue to cycle through the stages of sleep throughout the night, this stage becomes longer and longer. We typically spend half of our sleep time in stage 2 sleep. Stage 3 or N3 sleep is our first stage of deep sleep, when it is much harder to wake someone if they are in this stage. In this stage, our body relaxes completely so that there is no muscle movement at all. You're basically paralyzed. This stage is critical for bodily recovery and growth and has even been linked to increases in insightful thinking, creativity, and memory. Our brains also produce delta waves during N3 sleep, which indicates very slow brain activity, which means our brains are also redeveloping and regrowing itself and creating new neural connections. More time is spent in N3 sleep during the first half of the night, usually 20 to 40 minutes. And as sleep progresses, this stage becomes shorter and shorter with more time devoted to REM sleep in each cycle. REM sleep is the second phase of the sleep cycle. During this phase, brain activity increases to levels near being awake, and accordingly, this is a phase in which we experience very intense dreams. As the name rapid eye movement would indicate, our eyes move beneath our eyelids during this phase of sleep, while our muscles cannot move at all. Again, we're essentially paralyzed. We enter this phase of sleep after we have been asleep for about 90 minutes total, and although the first cycle of REM sleep only lasts a few minutes, this phase becomes longer and longer with each cycle, just as we previously stated, lasting as long as an hour. Thus, we spend about 25% of the night in REM sleep. And altogether, the sleep cycle really helps us to build bone and muscle, repair tissues, and strengthen our immune system. So as you can imagine, sleep has several impacts on our health. During sleep, the body produces cytokines, which are critical for helping us to fight off infections and improves our immune function. The body also produces a hormone called leptin during sleep, which acts as an appetite suppressor. This is why you might feel hungrier than usual following a night of restless or little sleep. Sleep improves our mood and productivity by restructuring and growing our neural connections. When we aren't cranky or groggy, we feel better emotionally, relate to others better, and concentrate more. We also make better choices when we get enough sleep, with less than 5 hours a night of sleep for an entire week being linked to an increase in riskier and more impulsive behavior. And as mentioned previously, sleeping also allows the body to restore and grow tissues, leading to better athletic performance when we exercise. Finally, adequate sleep allows your body to create and use insulin efficiently, decreasing your risk for type 2 diabetes. So, without sleep, in addition to experiencing the opposite of the benefits of adequate sleep, which means you're going to be sick more often, you're going to gain weight, you'll have worse mood and productivity, and you'll most likely have unregulated blood sugar. People who do not get enough sleep may also experience more accidents, particularly car accidents, high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease, mental health disorders, worsened perceptions of pain, and hormone imbalances. This is due to the body being unable to perform many of the functions we just discussed because it does not have enough time to do it with limited sleep. So we often ask ourselves how much sleep is enough. And so this really depends on age, but also on what occupation you have, your genetics, your eating habits. It all really depends on your personal factors. But these are some general guidelines you can look to for how much you should be sleeping. So infants between the ages of 4 to 12 months should be getting 12 to 16 hours a day of sleep, including naps. Children 1 to 2 years of age should be getting 11 to 14 hours a day, including naps. Children 3 to 5 years of age should be getting 10 to 13 hours a day, as well as naps. And then children 6 to 12 years of age, they should be getting between 9 to 12 hours a day, with napping not being necessary. Teens should get teens between the ages of 13 and 18 should get 8 to 10 hours a day, and then adults who are anyone 18 or over should get 7 to 8 hours a day. And yeah, so how much sleep you get kind of depends on your own needs. What's most important is to tell whether you feel well rested in the morning to tell if you're getting enough sleep. So what are the causes of sleep loss? There are several of them. So shift work can be a cause of sleep loss if you are working the graveyard shift or an afternoon shift. Poor sleep hygiene, which refers to keeping an environment or nighttime routine that is not conducive to rest and falling asleep easily. That can also impact your sleep. There's also jet lag from extensive travel. Unmanaged stress or other mental health concerns, lifestyle choices such as alcohol, caffeine consumption, lack of exercise, extensive TV or phone use, etc. An increased demand on our time from social and occupational obligations can also lead us to miss out on sleep, since sleep is often the first thing we sacrifice when our social and occupational calendars become too crowded. But of course, if we're not sleeping enough, then we can't really devote the emotional and mental energy we need for these other obligations. And then sleep disorders are another, oops, sorry. Uh, 1 second. Okay, back on track. And so sleep disorders are another main cause of sleep loss. So common sleep disorders include insomnia, narcolepsy, restless leg syndrome or RLS, sleep apnea, and sleep apnea. And you may be familiar with many of these already, but I'm still going to go through them very quickly just to explain what they are. So insomnia is probably the most well-known of all sleep disorders. It basically refers to the inability to fall asleep, but it also refers to early morning awakening when an individual wakes up several hours before their alarm and is unable to fall back asleep. Narcolepsy refers to excessive daytime sleepiness combined with sudden muscle weakness. It is characterized by overwhelming drowsiness and individuals suddenly falling asleep without their control. And then restless leg syndrome basically causes an unpleasant sensation in the legs that may also be associated with pain throughout the whole legs. Individuals often relieve the sensation by moving their legs through walking or kicking. So you can imagine if someone is laying down trying to sleep and they have to get up to walk or kick their legs to relieve this unpleasant sensation. That's really interfering with their ability to fall asleep. And then sleep apnea may just get made fun of or whatever as just intense snoring, but it actually does cause our breathing to stop or become very shallow, which is of course a very big problem because we need to breathe to live. And so it is characterized by periodic gasping or snorting, which of course interrupts your sleep. And sleep apnea is commonly treated using a continuous positive airway or CPAP machine. So if you think you may be experiencing a sleep disorder as just described, please reach out to UF Health Sleep Center. The experts there can do an assessment on you and see if you are suffering from one of these sleep disorders and give you some options for how to help you. All right, now talking about how you actually sleep. So in order to improve our sleep, to ensure we're getting as much rest as possible, it's important to recognize our current sleep habits. Some questions to ask yourself and consider as we go through this presentation, and just whenever you're going through the motions of getting ready for bed, include the following. What are you doing right before bed? Are you eating a heavy meal or drinking multiple cups of alcohol? Are you watching a lot of TV or scrolling through social media right before putting your head on the pillow? You should also consider what time you're going to bed compared to the time you set your alarms for. Are you giving yourself enough time to rest fully before getting ready for another busy day? When you do go to bed, are you able to fall asleep quickly or do you stay up tossing and turning, waiting for sleep to come? Now think about how you feel while sleeping. Are you able to sleep through the night peacefully or do you often find yourself sleeping restlessly and waking up many times in the night? If you do wake up in the middle of the night, are you able to fall asleep quickly again? The environment in which we sleep also affects our rest. Is there a lot of clutter in your room, or do you have a lot of excess decorations around you that distract you while you're trying to fall asleep? Is there a lot of light pollution in your room at night? And finally, how we feel when we wake up is the most important indicator of how well we are sleeping. So, do you usually feel well rested, stress free, and optimistic about tackling a new day when you get up in the morning? Or do you still feel overly tired and drowsy? All right, so now we can talk about some healthy sleep habits that you can begin to implement into your sleep routine. So the first one being keeping a consistent sleep schedule, where you go to bed and wake up at the same time each day. And this helps us to regulate our circadian rhythms so our biological clocks are in line with when we should be falling asleep versus awake. Reducing your screen time and blue light exposure by limiting your time spent watching TV or using phones is also really important for helping us fall asleep. As I mentioned earlier, the blue light that comes from these and other electronic devices really confuses our brain into thinking it is still daytime, which keeps us awake for a lot longer. You should also try reserving your bed for sleep and intimacy only, as this also helps your brain to recognize that once you're in bed, it is time to go to bed. Performing other activities in bed, like watching TV or reading or answering emails, prevents this recognition from occurring in our brains. So we begin to associate bed with answering emails instead of going to sleep, which means that we're not trained to feel tired or sleepy when we get into bed. You may also try recreating your environment to be more comfortable and therefore more conducive to sleep. You should remove any excess clutter and distracting decorations from your bedroom that may keep you awake when trying to fall asleep. If you're able to, invest in a pillow, mattress, and sheets that are best suited to your likes and needs. If you notice a lot of light pollution coming into your room at night, try using blackout curtains or a sleeping mask to make it as dark as possible. It is also recommended to keep your bedroom temperature between 60 to 75 degrees for maximum comfort. You should also avoid large meals, excess fluids, and alcohol and caffeine 3 to 4 hours before bed to improve bodily comfort when trying to fall asleep because no one wants to be getting up in the middle of the night to go use the restroom. And avoiding alcohol and caffeine will also help you to fall asleep as well as improve the quality of your sleep overall. And then some more lifestyle changes specific to improving sleep. Um, First off, avoid taking naps in the late afternoon. I know sometimes we get home at 5 p.m., we've been stuck in traffic, we've had a long day at work. All I want to do is lay down in bed and take a nap. But taking naps in the late afternoon can actually confuse your circadian rhythms and make it harder to fall asleep when it is actually time to go to bed. You also want to implement positive sleep hygiene routines, which means creating an environment and nighttime routine that is conducive to falling asleep. So this can refer to implementing the environmental changes discussed earlier and implementing the practice of habit stacking. For example, turning on the fan right before laying in bed each night can serve as a small mental indicator that it is time to go to sleep. Repeating this practice over time can trick your brain into feeling tired as soon as the fan is turned on, because it has learned to associate turning on the fan with sleep. Having a specific nighttime routine can also help with this. For example, I like to wash my face and complete all of my skincare steps before going to bed in order to relax and put some mental space between all the work that I did throughout the day and the nighttime when it's time to go to bed. This could also take the form of loading the dishwasher and cleaning the kitchen before bed, walking through the house to make sure everything is in place for the next day and all the lights are turned off, or just any other ritual you find helps you to relax before bed. If you have trouble waking up from sleep, you may find that stretching or walking shortly after waking up may help you to feel more awake. And then spending at least 30 minutes outside and in the sun also really impacts our circadian rhythms. Again, our ancestors were not inside every day. They were outside all day, every day in the past. So they learned our circadian rhythms evolved with the time of the day and when it was light and when it was dark. So getting outside more and spending at least 30 minutes outside in the sun helps us to reset our circadian rhythms. And as mentioned earlier, stress is also important in keeping us up at night and causing us to sleep restlessly. You can try practicing meditation right before bed to help relieve stress and hopefully fall asleep faster. There are several podcasts available which offer free guided meditations, which can help you learn how to meditate without having to expose yourself to too much blue light before bed. You can also consider signing up for the Calm app, which we are paying for subscriptions for a certain number of our employees. You can find out more information about that in our UF at Work emails or by going to the UFHR News website. And it is also important to prioritize your most valued self-care practices for managing stress. This could be exercising regularly, talking with a partner or a loved one, cooking a full meal, or anything else you find relieves stress for you. And of course, eating healthy and exercising regularly are major contributors to our overall quality of sleep. You may find that when you are eating a lot of fast food and maintaining a sedentary lifestyle, your sleep quality diminishes compared to when you are eating healthy and exercising. This is because the nutrients gained from food and endorphins produced through exercise are important in regulating our sleep. And then sleep journals are also a powerful tool in improving our sleep, which we'll discuss further in the next slide. All right, so using a sleep journal really helps us to calculate sleep time and evaluate the factors influencing sleep, as well as the quality of sleep. So the items you want to record in your sleep journal, and this doesn't have to be anything fancy. You don't have to go out and buy a guided sleep journal or search the internet for one. In the handout for this presentation, we will have a sleep journal included, but you can also make one of your own that you think best suits your needs. But the main items to record are your bedtime and wake up time, what you did right before and after being asleep, the number and duration of sleep interruptions, if there were any, your perceived sleep quality, maybe just doing a 5-star scale, so rating it from 1 to 5. Your daily exercise time, diet quality, and substance consumption relating to caffeine and alcohol and nicotine if you smoke. That can also impact your sleep. And then mood and feelings of restfulness and drowsiness throughout the day, which can help to indicate whether the quality of sleep you got was really high. All right, so our take-home messages for this presentation are that sleep is vital to our overall health and well-being, and then sleep is impacted by internal biological clocks and circadian rhythms. And in order to improve sleep, we must first consider our current sleep habits and quality. And sleep loss is caused by multiple factors, including stress, lifestyle choices, and sleep disorders, among other things. And finally, implementing healthy sleep habits and lifestyle changes can help to improve our sleep. So in the next module, we'll talk about stress management, but in the meantime, try creating some new SMART goals related to sleep based on what you learned in this module. See you next time.